In the spirit of reconciliation, the entire team at Curious Freedom acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, waters, and community. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people listening today. I would like to acknowledge in particular the Darug people who are the original custodians on the land on which I record this podcast. Thank you for showing us what Curious Freedom can look like. Welcome to the Curious Freedom podcast with Kirsty and friends. And today I have a friend on. Now, I have been speaking about this friend for the last couple of weeks. This is my friend who has set her own declutter challenge. So let me introduce you, friends, to my in real life friend, Leanne. Leanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kirsty. It's so exciting to be here.
You listen to the podcast too, don't you? So you've been hearing yourself like, oh, she's talking about me. Ooh.
Yeah, I know. I did. I listened a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh, she mentioned me there. Oh, it's me. It was, pretty exciting.
So tell the curious ones all about Leanne. Tell us about your work. Tell us about your family life. Tell us what you want to share.
Okay, cool. So yes, I've been married for 14 years, have two daughters, 9 and 6. Yes, they do cause a lot of the clutter, but I'm guilty of it too. So I can't just blame them, unfortunately, although I can try. I live in the Hills District in Sydney and I have a business. I've had that for coming up to 9 years. Copywriting, so writing for websites and blogs, articles, all that stuff, and also training. And so I absolutely love my business. I love being a mum. Don't love housework. I do the bare minimum. And yes, this decluttering journey, which I've been on, has just been on the to-do list for such a long time, just because I've been busy with everything else.
So tell us a bit about the experiment, but tell us also about your relationship to decluttering before this experiment.
Okay, so look, I was a dedicated listener to this podcast years ago, and the thing was I admit, I think you know this, Kirsty, I actually stopped listening at one point because I just felt overwhelmed. I felt inspired, but then I'd stop listening to the podcast and then the motivation would just be completely lost. I'm like, oh, great. So once again, I'm not going to clean that space. I'm not going to clean that space. And I just get frustrated with myself. And I've got, self-diagnosed ADHD. So I'm always like moving from task to task and I get bored a little bit easy. So the whole decluttering thing, I did do a little bit a few years back and I felt great. But then before long, it just become a cluttered space again. And there's been, I'm sitting in a co-working space for my business, which, marks a year of me being here. And one of the reasons why I moved to this office was because I was so sick of working from home. And every time I go make a cup of tea or make my lunch, I would just see mess in every single corner of my house. And it just became so overwhelming. And I didn't want to clean it. I just look at it and it would just mock me. So I needed to get out. And so I have had a bit of a better relationship with my home now that I do work mostly outside of it. But I basically got to the point where for a good 3-4 months, I was like, I need to declutter. And then for the school holidays, I took 3 weeks off, but we weren't going away. And I thought, all right, this is my opportunity to actually sink my teeth into this. And I didn't know how, but then this idea of keep myself accountable came up. I think it just occurred to me, what if I share it on my personal Facebook page every day, day 1, day 2, day 3, saying I'm doing a 21 declutter and 21 days. And that would just keep me accountable to actually do it, because otherwise I just make excuses for myself. I know I would. So that was just a game changer.
And it has been a joy to be your friend cheering you on, because I was like, ooh, this is awesome that you're doing this without any prompting from me. So you probably saw it on another declutter page or somewhere. And it's been joyful watching you, and it's been joyful to see what a huge transformation you have made in your home and the momentum that's been building as well. So tell us more about the experiment. Tell us more about the challenge. How did you come up with it? What were your parameters around it? I know them.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Let the curious ones know.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, definitely 21 days for sure. And I didn't write down a list of where I was going to clean. There's just so many spaces. I knew I'd easily find that. So basically I would clean whatever inspired me on that day and however much time I had on that day. So if I knew I was going to be home all day, I may pick a space that could take 30 minutes or an hour. But ultimately, I've been aiming for 5 to 15-minute jobs, like really quick wins, because I knew I would feel really good about it and I wouldn't get overwhelmed. So like my home office, for example, my husband now has a new job where he's going to be working from home and using it, and I'm not in it. So it's got a lot of my crap. And rather than going, I'm going to tackle this whole room and spend 8 hours doing this, I'm like, I'm going to do that little pile on the floor. And there could be like 4 piles on the floor, or that desk, or the whiteboard, which had artworks from the kids from probably 2 years ago. So I just picked one little space, and that just felt very freeing for me. I didn't feel trapped by it. I have 10 minutes now. What's a quick space I can do? And it just, it kept rolling from that. So basically I hit the 21 days and I'm like, I don't want to stop now. It really changed my mindset, because rather than looking at a space and going, ugh, and feeling so heavy, like now I look at a heavy space and go, oh, cool. That's another space I can do one day. And I just look at it very differently. I don't look at it with dread. I look at it with hope, going, cool, I know that needs to be done. So like, the kids' craft cupboard, I went through on the weekend one of the shelves because they're just chaotic. And probably this weekend I'll tackle the other shelf. I wasn't like going to do all of it at once because one was enough. And it was a fun little funny thing that happened that I'll mention how my family has got involved too, by the way. But my 6-year-old, she found a balloon that was filled with corn flour. It was meant to be like a, squish
Sensory
ball, stress
toy.
ball,
Yeah.
sensory toy thing. And it was from last year some point, and she obviously went to squish it. And next thing I hear, Mom, and I look up and her face is white with powder and it's all over her. And she's like frozen in this pose, like, what just happened? I'm very proud of myself. I didn't yell at her. I just giggled and said, all right, Justin, I need your help in here. But yeah, so I've just been very mindful of not biting off too much, like go, all right, just this space, and not even thinking I have to tackle the messiest spaces either. I'm like, oh, what's in this cupboard? Oh, and get a bit curious. But, oh, I haven't looked in this cupboard or this drawer in a while. There's probably stuff I can throw out there. And sure enough, I probably can if I never go in there. So it's been, I'm up to, I think today's day 48. I'm aiming for 100 days now, and then I'll probably end up revisiting old spaces and all that. But it's been a really great experience and not scary.
I love that. What I love the most, and I think I've said it over the last couple of weeks, is that you chunked it down so small. You were literally like, okay, here's a pile of paper. I'm not looking at the whole room. I'm not being overwhelmed by the whole room. I'm looking at this pile of paper, and it's going to take me 10 minutes, and that's all I'm allowing for the day. And I'm going to deal with that. And I love how in your updates every day is that you've included how long it's actually taken you, and how long you set yourself, but also how long it's taken you some days. So like, you're like, oh, I had half an hour, so I did this, and it only took me 5 minutes. That's been really awesome. But I love, love, love how tiny you went, and that that's how you dealt with your overwhelm. You've been putting it off for years. You've been overwhelmed for years because you've been looking at it as a whole, and you changed your mindset around looking at it as a whole to looking at it in the smallest units that you felt capable of that day.
Yeah, and 100%. And so sometimes it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, oh, I haven't cleaned my space yet. And I'll just go, all right, what's a quick and easy win? And it's just that quick, easy win. That has what's kept me going. It hasn't felt overwhelming at all. it's been fun, a bit of fun.
So how did you feel at the start though? Did it feel, even though you made it a game, you've gamified it, you've made it, even from the very beginning, you'd set your parameters, like, and this, I'm glad you said it, you set yourself up so well by saying, hey, I'm only going to give myself the time that I have for the day. And you've stuck to that. Like a day 48, you're still like, oh, oops, it's 10 o'clock at night. What can I do in 5 minutes, rather than, oh, I thought I was going to do this space today and now I'm going to shame myself because I totally forgot about it and I'm not doing that craft cupboard because I know it's going to take me 2 hours. Like
100%. And sometimes I'm like, oh, have I like taken the easy route, because that's a really quick space. But I'm like, no, every space counts. And if I'm doing this for 100 days, I can go back to the harder spaces later. And, because now I'm obviously, I'm back at work. So I don't have all day to go, oh yeah, I've relaxed now for 3 hours. I'm going to go do a bit of cleaning. So at the beginning of the process, I think, because like I said, I like to, I'm always on the go, but I like to also feel like I achieved something in my day. I'm not very good at just lying on the couch the whole day. I'm like, that was a waste of the day. So I found that I'd relax for a bit and go, all right, well, I'll clean. So I'm doing something, but it's also going to be relaxing because I'll feel good at the end. And it's been cool to see the things that I've found. So that's part of my little updates. I say, here's my little thoughts on this space. Yeah, here's how long it took me. Here's what I found, and the curious and weird things that I've found, and then how I feel as a result of it. And I've been sharing the before and after photos because you have to do that. And initially I'm like, I'm just doing this for me, just going to share with everyone. And you know what, though, what's been really cool, that I've actually had people saying, and I did put this initial post, hey, if you want to join me, feel free to share and tag me. People haven't necessarily been sharing, although some have. But I have had a whole bunch of people saying, you've inspired me. I've decluttered this. I've done that. And I'm like, wow, there's probably easily 5 to 10 people that have told me they've been watching, not commenting, not reacting, but they're like, oh, you've made it look so simple. I've started doing it too. And I'm like, oh, that's just a little side win. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that part too.
So that's kind of one of the things that surprised you. Is what else has surprised you while you've been going?
Probably my family getting involved, because I didn't expect them to. This wasn't something I'm like, all right, everyone, we're doing this challenge together. I set it out as me. And so I didn't start with the kids' spaces or my husband's areas. Like I started with what I thought was like what I use all the time. And then, definitely my 6-year-old Indiana, she's gotten into it. So she's often going, Mum, I think this is a space you should clean today. And depending on how I feel, I may agree with her. I'll go, but I was thinking this space. And she's often getting her hands dirty and helping me. Or sometimes, she's jumped in and cleaned a extra shelf in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I didn't take any before photos, but it still counts. Or like she didn't want to get out of the bath the other day. And so I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Let's go through your bath toys. So it's been really fun. My older one, 9-year-old has been so into it, except both of them eagerly got into their bookshelves, helped pile it up, going through it, and they both eagerly addressed their desks with a reward to go to Office Works that afternoon, which, they're my kids, stationary, we love it. But I was very impressed because I can't remember what day it was, but there was no complaints whatsoever when they were cleaning out their spaces. And I think because they'd seen me do it, and so it wasn't like, do as I say, know as I do type of thing. So they were like just excited, had seen the spaces I'd cleaned and like, oh, cool, it's our turn. And they just got their hands dirty. And I think the same sort of thing might have happened with my husband, because he, in the past, I'm like, oh, hey, you got to clean out this. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. But instead he's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's your space for today. Let me have a look. Oh, yeah, let's get rid of that. Oh, yeah, no, let's keep that. So that's been pretty cool getting them all involved as well.
I know. I was so excited when you got to Justin's spaces. I was all
I still have more of his to go. But yeah.
But what made me excited is that you weren't doing it on his behalf. Like, he was definitely involved. You didn't show photos of him getting involved, but the conversation that you had around it, I could tell that Justin had made the decisions for himself. It wasn't you going, right, you don't need that anymore. And like, that's what we talked about.
What would have happened. Yeah, like in the past, when I would have gotten overwhelmed, I'm like, I'm sick of seeing this stuff, I would just start being that screechy parent or wife going, can you just clean that up? Can you just clean? And I would just like explode. And I haven't been doing that because I might kindly say, hey, I've already cleaned that space. Can you please not start piling things up on it again? No, mummy's cleaned that space. But I haven't lost it. So definitely my anxiety levels have dropped, which means I'm not snapping. Yeah, because before, if I had time to do housework, it would basically be the dishes, the laundry, like the basic day-to-day stuff. All the extra mess, there was never any capacity for it. But now that I'm like, oh, cool, just have to allocate 15 minutes and then watching it get done and then going to the pantry, I'm like, every time I open it or open the ensuite cupboard under the sink, that's right, that's all cleaned up. It's just been, very relieving.
So from that, what have you started implementing any new habits so that the spaces don't become cluttered, or is that, is it all too new still?
That's probably one of the next stages. I'm just starting to experiment with clear baskets. I never really used them at all in my storage. I think the fanciest thing I had was my spice rack was on a spinny lazy Susan type thing.
Yeah.
So in the ensuite, under the sink, I had the clear containers and all my toiletries were just kind of sitting on the bench top on the sink. And I'm like, I put them in a little container and now I'm like, I feel like it's all contained, pardon the pun. But like, I'm like, oh, that's nice. And someone mentioned to me the other day, giving me tips. Oh, you cleaned under your kitchen sink. Why don't you get containers for that? I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but okay. And people sharing links to recommendations and stuff too. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then I started thinking, oh, I always see, images of people's pantries always in those baskets, but I never really knew how to use them. So I'm like, let's just, I'll probably focus on cleaning the spaces first, or at least majority of them, and then I'll look at methods to then keep them like that. I'll probably be picking your brain for that, Kirsty, because this is a whole new world for me.
Oh no, and I'm silently clapping because I'm like, yay, do the decluttering first before going out to Kmart or Howard Storage or Target or anywhere else to buy the containers first, because that's what so many people do. They're like, oh, okay, I've looked at Instagram, I know what I want to buy, and then I go buy too much. Imagine if you had gone and organized all the stuff instead of decluttering. You would have had to buy so many more baskets and containers than what you do now. Like I've been like giddy with excitement watching how different your spaces look because you've got rid of so much. And I've been like stopping myself telling you what to do, like, because I'm like, if she wants my advice, she'll come and ask me. But I mean, like, there's been a couple of posts where I'm like, yep, containers would work really good in that space, but only usually because somebody else has said it first. Yes. I didn't want to be the one telling you what to do. So would you do anything differently?
I don't think so. I think it has worked really well just to like not having that structure. I think because I do like my lists and I could have very easily said, all right, first day, I'm going to do this, and this day. And then I would have had that shame if I didn't do it, or would have thought, can I jump around my list? Oh, I really should do that. Or I have enjoyed the process. I don't think I would do anything differently. Maybe say 100 days from the very beginning rather than 21 and then extending it. But actually, when I was at the 21-day mark, I did put a comment on that post saying, hey, everyone, it's 21 days. I'm going to continue this. I don't want to clutter your news feed. Maybe I should create a group. Let me know if you want to join the group and keep watching. And all these people were like, no, like it's among our news feed of ads and random crap. This is actually inspiring me. So no, keep doing it. And so I did feel like, oh, am I annoying people with these daily things? But everyone's really enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep on going then.
Okay. What's been challenging about it? I've got a couple of ideas of what might have been challenging, but you tell me.
So sometimes if I do underestimate how long it's going to take, I am like, oh, okay, I can't finish it right now. We're about to go out. I'll have to come back. And then I just have to go, oh, like I have that moment of going, oh, I have to do that. But no, and then there's a little self-talk that goes backwards and forwards. No, just get it over and done with. That's okay. You half of it's done. You just have to, like that shelf on the craft cupboard, like things are literally falling out at me. And there was just still stuff on the ground. And I'm like, do I ask my 6-year-old what does she want? But I'm like, you know what? I don't think she even knows the stuff's here. Let's just get rid of it. Actually, the most challenging part probably has been educating the kids on how to let go of stuff. I know my parents won't mind me saying this, but I come from generations of hoarders on both sides of the family, and I'm trying to break that cycle. But my kids, whenever they show those signals of, oh, I have to hold on to that drawing where I did 2 quick squiggles and it was so important to me. I did buy them a crate each, a nice looking black felt, one of those box things that you can fold up and put up. I said, okay, this is where your artworks go. Don't just keep giving them to me. If you really like it, it goes in this box. I've only just been back at school for a little bit, but that's where their stuff's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just going to be a matter, like their toy room is still very chaotic. I haven't really done too much in there. But we have a cleanup campaign coming up on Monday. So this weekend might be the biggest declutter ever because we have a reason to go through everything. So I think it's their resistance. It's their resistance letting go of things and just saying, you don't even play with this anymore. You don't like, why are we keeping it? I think that's been the thing, just trying to make them realize, is it really valuable to you? Or are you just holding on to it because you've had it for so long?
Yeah. Or is it tied to a beautiful memory?
Yeah, exactly. So there's been some things I'm like, let's just take a photo of it then. But yeah, you're too big for it now. Or let's give it to your younger cousin and we'll see if they want it. Or we give it to children who don't have any toys. And then they're like, okay, I'm open to that.
What about for you? Has there been any resistance to letting go of anything? Like, have you noticed sentimentality? Have you noticed, oh, but what if I need it one day? Or it costs money, so I can't let it go? Some of the common things that other people do tell me about
a bit
them.
of that. Well, look, for example, we emptied out, we had as everyone does, a DVD case, but barely use the DVDs. It's all about the Netflix and streaming and things. So we're like, all right, let's get rid of it because we got a new couch in the process. But going through that and you're like, oh my gosh, we spent all this money on all these DVDs. Do we just get rid of them, just throw them out? And the things, the sticker, 3 for $40, and we did that all the time. And just thinking of the value of it, but like, it's just no point holding on to them. Yes, we did hold on to like the box sets or our absolute favorites, which we'll later check to see if we have already got them like downloaded and then get rid of them. And like, oh, I like that one. Oh, I like that one. There's probably some other little items that I have held on to, but they've usually been small enough. I'm like, well, it's not really taking up too much space if I do hold on to it. But I actually was trying to educate my dad about that, spending money and then it no longer serves a purpose. I was trying to teach him. I think I did get that from one of your past episodes, actually. I'm like, look, Dad, yeah, you did spend it once, but it doesn't mean that you have to hold on to it forever. Like, it served its purpose. And then as a hoarder, he struggled to really grapple with that. And same with the kids going, all right, yeah, that was an expensive toy or that was a gift from someone. But you know what? They probably don't remember they gave it to you as a present from 5 years ago and you've grown up, or you've got other things. Can you pass it on to your cousins if it's really good quality and you know that they're really going to love it? So say it is like a dress up or something and they love their dress ups, or it's a Wiggles theme and they love Wiggles. Like, there hasn't been any passing on onto people just to give them more crap to deal with. I've been made sure of that.
And because you have decluttered so much, is there any furniture now that you're like, oh, do we even need that piece of furniture? Other than the couch that you let go of because you got a new couch.
The couch thing, I don't know if that would have happened if it wasn't for the decluttering thing, because we've been talking about replacing that couch, which is over, like, we've had it 15 years, but it was actually Justin's grandparents for at least 5 years, maybe more before that. So we're talking about over 20-year-old couch, and his section was well worn, especially after the holidays. That was his spot. So he just one day sat up, started doing some typing. The corner of my eye, saw he was looking at couches, but he's done that before and it hasn't gone anywhere. And he's like, oh, let's go get a new couch today, or at least go looking. And I'm like, okay. And we happened to find awesome floor stock, great value with recliners, and we've never had recliners. So it was all very exciting. And I think he wouldn't have been in that headspace about replacing or doing something new with the house unless I've been doing this whole process.
Yeah.
This whole process has just made it the forefront of mind what's in our home and what can we get rid of. There is this spare dining table which doesn't really serve a purpose for dining. It was just a dumping ground. And I did say to him, let's get rid of it now I've decluttered. But then it's actually become a craft table. And my eldest Gabby, she does prefer her to be on the computer there. I can see her not hiding upstairs. Computer there. And also we've got that diamond art stuff on the table. And I'm like, oh, maybe it could work as a craft table. So I'm going to argue whether we keep that or we make something smaller that there'll still be a craft space, but don't need a whole dining table there.
Yeah, because it's been so interesting to me, like when I'm seeing empty spaces, because some of the spaces that you've decluttered, you've got like 2 things back in there. And I'm all like, is there another cupboard that they could go in, Leanne? Like, you know, and it's tricky also for me, and it's tricky for people watching because you have chunked it down so small and you're not necessarily, you know, like even the craft cupboard that you've done, you haven't done the other shelves yet. You've been switching and changing. So then I'm all like, oh, I can't even, and I've never been into your home. So I'm all like, what is this that she's gone back to this cupboard, but what else was in there? And sometimes you'll say it in the post, but I've just been really curious to go, can you consolidate it all into one? Or not into one, but like, is there, you know, now a buffet that you can get rid of? Is there bookcases that you can get rid of? Could you declutter that a little bit more and then get rid of it entirely?
I think so. That's why I'm like open to then revisiting spaces. And so there is that, you know, we have a spare bookshelf, which really doesn't have a lot in it. It's got more toys. I mean, look, it's probably got sentimental value because that was Justin's, you know, first bookcase as a kid, but we probably don't really need that. So that could be down the track. We go, all right, maybe it's time to get rid of that. Cool. So that's why I don't think, I mean, I say 100 days, but now that I've gotten into it, it might just be every day just doing that little thing. And then, all right, like yesterday, for example, I cleaned the top of my filing cabinet and mostly had oils and candles. And I'm like, well, let's move those candles to one of those more empty shelves in the kitchen because that's where I burn my candles. And so it has a new home now that I wouldn't have otherwise even wouldn't have thought to put it there. Before they were kind of shoved where my pots and pans were. It smelled really nice and opened the door, but that's not really where they're meant to go. So they have a bit more of a home, but then I might later on go, actually, that might be a better space for them. So I'm going to be flexible and fluid with it all and move things around as I see fit. And there was a shelf that was mine. I'm like, well, maybe I'll give it to Justin now because I don't really need it. And he'd be like, I got another shelf in my own house. But so it's going to be an evolving process, I think.
I know I'm up for watching for the next 52 days because I'm so excited, and I'm excited for what's coming as well, like the deep dive. And that's why I'm like curious also, has there been momentum like from the first time, you know, the first couple of days, were you a little more circumspect of like, oh, maybe I'll keep it, and now that you've got more decluttering muscle built up, you're like clearer on what's staying and what going? Has that happened for you?
Yeah, I think so. Because if I'm like, okay, I really haven't used this stuff. And I was cleaning out some of Justin's shirts and I had the clothing in bags in my boot. I'm like, oh, actually, I feel I can't get rid of it because there was that shirt from the 2000 Paralympics that I put in there. He was a volunteer and he might actually want to keep that as a memento. And so he said, yeah, actually, I would like to just at least keep that one. The rest can go. But otherwise, I have so many bags of clothes to get rid of, and my local clothing bin I always use has been moved. So I have to go find another one because I always seem to be full. That's the thing.
I can tell you after we get off the phone.
All right, cool. You can tell me all the places to go. No, I definitely have gotten a bit more like with the kids stuff too, going, are you going to wear this? No, it's gone. You wear this? No, it's gone. I think definitely it's come a lot easier. Yeah.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for sharing your experiment or challenge with us. I really hope that people are inspired to do something similar, make up their own rules like you have. I'm excited that you've inspired me. You've been I've absolutely loved cheering you on. Hence why I've got you on the podcast, because I wanted you to share
You've
with
been back
the
of mind
world.
the whole way. Like, well, what would Kirsty do in this situation? Okay, no, get rid of it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, getting the kids involved, the family, that's helped. And I'm just feeling so much calmer at home. That is just the best thing ever. And just by making it really easy on myself, it's really helped me a lot.
And I think also, like, as you said, you can now change your, like, yes, you've got the 100 days, but you're free to stop whenever you want because it's your own challenge. You know, you might get through before the 100, but also that now everything has a place, you're well on your way and some really big areas have been done. You can just go, oh, actually, hey, I've got 15 minutes, I'm going to reset, you know, or girls, pack up the craft stuff that you were using today. Or like, it's so much easier. It's so overwhelming when your house is full of clutter to even think about daily habits. But even the washing up and the clothes washing can be overwhelming when you're like, there's so much. Do I really need to be focusing on that when there's so much trying to vie my attention, and I'd rather go to the local co-working space to get out of my home.
That's it. I won't give up the co-working space. I do enjoy it, but yeah, 100%. I think once I've cleaned all these spaces, then I can go, all right, today's task is washing one small load of washing rather than leaving it all to the weekend. Because at the moment, that's still my process. So, you know, yes, we've got the kids emptying the dishwasher, but there could be other things we could get them involved in and other day-to-day tasks like, yeah, just wiping down surfaces. So that will probably be the next phase of this. But yeah, I'm happy with how it's gone so far and look forward to seeing, how I change in my cleaning habits.
Oh, it's been such a delight to have you on the show. Do you want to just shout out to your business? Tell everybody where they can find you if they so happen to be interested in copywriting.
Sure. So it's called Right Time Marketing. It's in Write with a Pen, WRITE, Time Marketing. Also, there's the Blogging Bootcamp, which is my DIY course membership accountability because I've learned it works really well. You can look up thebloggingbootcamp.com.au.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my friend in real life. Thank you also for coming on the show. Yeah, curious ones. I hope you've really enjoyed this conversation with Leanne, and I can't wait to be back in your ears next week. See ya.